At first glance, many people didn't even recognize him. No trademark swagger. No sunglasses. No familiar grin. Just a frail, unsettling figure standing on a dimly lit movie set, enough to make fans pause and look twice. Almost immediately, social media filled with the same question appearing again and again: is that really Johnny Depp? As leaked set photos began circulating, the reaction was instant and intense. Some fans called it his most drastic transformation to date. Others said they hadn't seen him vanish into a role like this in years. And that's what made this moment feel different. This wasn't just another costume change. This wasn't just another project quietly moving into production. For Johnny Depp, this role arrives at a very specific point in his career. After years dominated by controversy, headlines, and distance from major Hollywood productions, he's back. But not in the way anyone expected. There's no flashy announcement. No safe, crowd-pleasing return. Instead, he chose something darker, riskier, and almost unrecognizable. And once you understand what this film truly represents, and why fans believe it could reshape his career, that transformation begins to make a lot more sense. The first images from the set were almost surreal. Depp appeared in heavy aging makeup, his skin pale and weathered, deep lines etched into his face. Gray hair spilled from beneath a nightcap, making him look decades older than ever before on screen. His posture was hunched, his presence subdued, and the familiar Depp charisma was nowhere to be found. From a distance, many viewers genuinely assumed it was a stand-in. But the closer the photos were examined, the more striking the transformation became. The wrinkles weren't subtle. The prosthetics weren't stylized or theatrical. This wasn't designed to look impressive, it was designed to feel uncomfortable. And that discomfort is exactly what made it impossible to ignore. What stood out most was the commitment. No playful expressions. No recognizable mannerisms. Just a worn-down, emotionally fractured version of Ebenezer Scrooge that felt closer to psychological horror than holiday nostalgia. Even longtime fans admitted they had to study the images before fully realizing who they were looking at. And that extreme transformation wasn't done for shock alone. Because when you look closer at the film itself, it becomes clear this version of A Christmas Carol is nothing like the ones audiences grew up with. This isn't the warm, family-friendly adaptation people expect. Early reports suggest the film leans heavily into a darker, more unsettling tone. A shift that begins with the director. T. West is known for slow-burn tension, disturbing imagery, and stories that linger long after the screen fades to black. Cozy holiday comfort has never been his style. That creative direction changes everything. Instead of portraying Scrooge as a simple grump in need of redemption, this version reportedly dives deeper into his isolation and psychological decay. The streets feel colder. The nights stretch longer. And the ghosts aren't whimsical guides, they're unsettling manifestations of guilt and memory. Set photos reinforce that atmosphere. Dim lighting. Heavy shadows. Scenes that feel eerily quiet. The wardrobe choices are bleak and restrained, stripping away any warmth or nostalgia. The entire production feels more like a psychological thriller than a seasonal classic. And suddenly Johnny Depp feels like the perfect fit. Because this Scrooge was never meant to be charming. He was meant to be disturbing. And that creative risk leads directly into why this project matters so much for Depp right now. This role resonates differently because of where Depp has been in recent years. For a long time, his name wasn't associated with new films, it was associated with controversy. Studios distanced themselves. Major franchises moved on. Even fans began to wonder if Hollywood had quietly closed the door. That's what makes this choice so compelling. He didn't return with a guaranteed blockbuster or a nostalgia-driven sequel. He didn't play it safe. Instead, he chose a role that completely erases his public image and forces audiences to focus solely on performance. No charm. No spectacle. Just transformation. Reports suggest this project wasn't about financial gain or image repair. It was about credibility. A demanding character role. One that requires restraint, discomfort, and vulnerability. In Hollywood, that kind of decision often signals confidence, not desperation. Fans picked up on that immediately. Online reactions weren't just about how different he looked. They focused on what this role represents. A quiet return, a calculated risk, and possibly the beginning of a new chapter. And when you look beyond Depp himself, the rest of the production only strengthens that impression. The supporting cast is filled with actors known for serious, intense performances, not lighthearted holiday fare. Early glimpses of them on set added another layer of unease. Andrea Riseborough, reportedly portraying the ghost of Christmas past, appeared in makeup that many fans described as haunting rather than magical. Pale, hollowed, almost otherworldly. Her look alone suggested this film isn't interested in comfort, it's interested in impact. Even the background details feel intentional. Extras dressed in worn-down Victorian clothing. Streets that look empty and unforgiving. There's no festive glow, no warmth, just isolation. Every element of the set design reinforces the same feeling. Something is deeply wrong. That atmosphere feels deliberate. This doesn't appear to be a story where redemption comes easily. It feels like one that forces its characters, and its audience, to sit with discomfort before anything resembling hope appears. And as fans began piecing that together, the reaction shifted. Once the images spread online, the response escalated quickly. Comment sections filled with disbelief. Memes appeared within hours, comparing Depp's look to horror characters and long-forgotten Dickens illustrations. Many joked that they wouldn't have recognized him without context. But beneath the humor was genuine excitement. Fans pointed out how rare it is to see Depp disappear into a role so completely. Others called it his most serious transformation in over a decade. Even skeptics admitted the visuals alone had sparked curiosity. Reddit threads began analyzing every detail: the makeup, the posture, the lighting. This wasn't passive consumption. It was engagement. And that level of scrutiny usually means something has struck a nerve. Not everyone was convinced. Some questioned whether such a dark approach could work for a holiday classic. Others wondered if audiences were ready to embrace Depp in such a heavy role. And that division is exactly what's keeping this story alive. Because whether people are excited or uneasy, they're paying attention. What makes this moment truly compelling isn't just how different Johnny Depp looks, it's what this role symbolizes. Hollywood often favors loud comebacks and familiar formulas. This one is quiet, uncomfortable, and intentionally challenging. And that might be precisely why it works. If this darker take on A Christmas Carol delivers on its promise, it could reshape how audiences view both the story and Depp himself, not as a nostalgic icon, but as a serious actor willing to take risks when it matters most. There's also something deeply symbolic about the role. A man confronting his past, a figure isolated by reputation, and a transformation that doesn't come easily. Whether intentional or not, fans have already started drawing the parallels. That's why these set photos feel like more than behind-the-scenes leaks. They feel like the beginning of something new. The real question now isn't whether Johnny Depp can disappear into a role, it's whether Hollywood and audiences are ready to accept what he becomes next.